We finally arrived in my city, the Fleischer Brothers classic animation 1940s version of Superman by McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse. A figure that would be beyond imagining that they would ever make one based on the 1940s Superman cartoon, even though it's a hugely important cartoon for defining the lore of Superman that we know today. Glad they actually made it. I was starting to get like worried that I never would see him, and it's reconciling to that. Oh, this is just another figure that's going to bypass my city and never show up here. But thankfully, it did show up, and I was able to get one. So we're going to unbox this guy. But while we're unboxing him, let's have a chat about the Superman cartoons by the Fleischer brothers. Well, as I said, the Fleischer Superman cartoons are my favorite version of Superman. The original 9 cartoons, of the 16 altogether, were released by the Fleischer brothers, 1941 to 42, and they contributed a huge amount to the modern lore of Superman and shaping Superman from what he originally was in the Golden Age to what we know more today. A lot of his famous catchphrases began with the cartoon.
Up in the sky, look! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's Superman!
Faster than a speeding bullet. More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound.
His habit of changing in phone booths came from the cartoon, as well as his ability to fly. The voices in the cartoon were the same actors as the Adventures of Superman radio show, and these tropes and new abilities and things developed in the cartoon did eventually work their way back into the radio show and then into the comic book from there. As where we see again this transition from the original Golden Age Superman to the more modern Superman. Modern Superman's origins, of course, everybody knows. He's the last son of the destroyed planet of Krypton, arrives on Earth, is raised by John and Martha Kent, and discovers that radiation from a yellow sun imparts all of these magical powers on him, like his ability to fly, have different kinds of vision, impenetrable skin, all that sort of stuff. But that's not his original origin. In the original Golden Age Superman stories, Krypton was just a larger planet. So Superman jumping around on our planet would be equivalent to us jumping around on like the moon. And then the Kryptonians themselves enhanced themselves through science and eugenics. So Superman was just naturally stronger than human beings. He didn't have like magical super strength and didn't have this magical ability to fly. He was literally leaping tall buildings in a single bound. He was just a stronger guy on a planet with weaker gravity, so he was able to leap these tall buildings. And I actually like this more naturalistic version of Superman. It just seems a teeny tiny bit more credible, more believable than Superman just having all these magical powers. But it was the cartoon that introduced more of these magical powers, his different kinds of vision, and his ability to fly, because they just looked cooler on screen and they helped the narrative flow of the shorts. When you only have like 8 minutes or whatever to develop a story, you don't want to waste all that with him just leaping all of these buildings. You want to just have him fly to his destination, right? In these original 9 episodes, Superman is fighting more like mad scientists and monsters with sort of a 1930s, 40s sci-fi bent. So there's no recurring villains like a Lex Luthor or an Ultra Humanite, which was Superman's first supervillain. But still some awesome stuff. My personal favorites are the mechanical monsters, the giant robots, and the Arctic giant, the giant dinosaur. Both of which would make great companion figures for this McFarlane Superman if he still has enough time to produce anything to go with it. As one of his giant-sized figures as an Arctic giant or whatever. But this cartoon also marks this transition period in the tone of Superman stories. Because Superman originally, in the Golden Age comics, was a champion for sort of quote-unquote social justice, more so than like the superhero who beats up super criminals, super villains. The early comics had Superman tackling things like unsafe working conditions, weapons dealers who are stoking wars, corrupt politicians, dangerous driving. He waged a war on drunk driving in one of the early comics. He was a champion of justice for those who didn't have the money and the power to defend themselves. Right here at the outset of the Great Depression. But over time, these sort of nebulous, abstract social problems kind of distilled and coalesced into singular villains that Superman could just, punch into orbit. And this cartoon marks that transition. We're not going to have the super villains of like Lex Luthor and Ultra Humanite and so on, but we do have him fighting these singular villains with their superpowered cars and robots and things like that, rather than taking on social problems like tenement landlords and things like that. Now, one of the great things about this cartoon, one of the greatest things about it, is its fantastic streamlined Art Deco style. Superman just works so well with that style. He just fits so naturally into it. The Man of Tomorrow, with this sort of Art Deco world of tomorrow, as conceived by the 1939-40 New York World's Fair, that whole aesthetic. And the Fleischer brothers were really good at capturing that aesthetic. They had another cartoon, All's Fair at the Fair, from 1938, which has this, again, fantastic streamlined Art Deco style. At their heart, Superman and even Batman are 1930s pulp heroes, and really kind of fit best into that setting. Tim Burton tapped into that with his Batman films. And God bless Hollywood for taking completely the wrong message from that Batman film, its success. They saw Tim Burton's Batman, saw the kids must be really into 1930s pulp heroes wearing fedoras and stuff, and gave us The Shadow and The Rocketeer and so on. But Batman the Animated Series, also set in this kind of very 1930s setting. The Superman cartoon that came out of the Batman Animated Series, and then also even the upcoming James Gunn Superman movie has some of these aspects of this Art Deco sort of 1930s style in it. The cartoon went on to inspire films like Sky Captain and The World of Tomorrow, which has this incredible opening sequence of robots attacking New York, inspired by mechanical monsters, as well as a cameo by one of the mechanical monsters in the Robot Lab. Now, unfortunately, the Fleischer brothers had a split between themselves, and Paramount Studios, which is the major shareholder in the Fleischer Studios, reorganized it as Famous Studios. And so the latter 7 episodes of the series had a significant decrease in budget and a shift in storytelling towards more sort of fantasy. One episode has an underground race of hawk people, and World War II propaganda, as the United States had entered World War II by this point, and from which come more of, problematic racial depictions of, say, Japanese people or African indigenous people. And honestly, I mean, there's some aspects of these latter 7 episodes that are fun, but overall, they're just not as good as those original 9 made by the Fleischer brothers. Nevertheless, the Fleischer Superman cartoons are classics that left their lasting mark on the Man of Steel. And they were just great viewing on their own with this great 1930s Art Deco style, this sort of primitive idea of Superman, a little more naturalistic, not as many just absolutely invincible sort of magical powers. And it's awesome to finally get an action figure of that version. Alright, so here we go. We've got him unboxed, and I've just, for comparison's sake, have him with the Golden Age Superman figure that McFarlane put out before, as well as a Captain Marvel figure, Shazam here. I do wish that McFarlane would put out, or had already put out, a Golden Age Shazam, a Golden Age Captain Marvel, the original version, but this will have to be a placeholder until then, if then. But here we have the Fleischer Superman. We'll just put him in the background here a little bit. It comes with, a pair of hands, so you can do more of a flying pose or gonna strangle you pose. And the collector card that is just the cover of Superman #1, but painted, redone with the Fleischer Superman. And usual. This arm is a little bit loose on mine. I don't know if that's normal. But, there's not really a whole lot more to say about the Superman. I mean, if you are familiar with McFarlane figures, there you go. That's what he looks like. He's got the same posability as they all do. This one has the wired cape as opposed to the plastic cape that the Golden Age one has. In fact, I would be inclined now to take the use the flight stand that came with Golden Age Superman and actually put Fleischer Superman in it, because Fleischer Superman can actually fly, whereas Golden Age Superman just jumps. So, in fact, let's actually do that. Get out of the way, Golden Age Superman. Since we can do the whole look up in the sky bit, just adjusting his legs here a little bit. See how that flight stand looks. Looks good. With him there. And there we go. We've got a flying Fleischer Superman. That looks fan-freaking-tastic. And then we can just put Golden Age Superman here on the peg. And that actually works better with the fact that he has the plastic cape. So it's not trying to fight against the flight stand very much. But there we go. Now we got three variations of, well, two variations of Superman and Captain Marvel in there as well. Again, McFarlane, in your last year here, you're giving me Golden Age Wonder Woman, which is great. You're giving me Wesley Dodds Sandman, which is great. Give me a Golden Age Captain Marvel while you're at it. But loving this McFarlane Superman here. Get Golden Age out of the way there. Great likeness as well. I think it really captures, take off the flight stand, really captures the face. I'll just adjust that there a little bit. Captures the aesthetic from the cartoon really well. The darker color of suit is fine. Not sure how much of that is necessarily how dark the suit was in the cartoon versus just how the cartoon is physically degraded over time. But got the right color shield. Yeah, that likeness is great. That is much more of a sort of classic Superman likeness. I was actually thinking about if I even wanted to keep this figure now that I've got this one, or when I was going to get him. I almost thought, you could take this figure, or at least take his head, and make like a good Dick Tracy figure out of that. Just get like the body of the Question, get this head, and turn the Question into like Dick Tracy. But no, I think I'm going to keep him because he works with the Golden Age Batman and the Golden Age. Whoa, hey, where are you going? He works with Golden Age Batman and the Golden Age Wonder Woman that's coming out. So I can have sort of a setup, and Captain Marvel, but I have a setup, have a display, a shelf of the Golden Age comic characters, and then the movie, the cinema Superman can be on my shelves with the 1930s characters here, like let's see, who can he be fighting? Superman fighting the Frankenstein monster, that kind of thing. This is what I bought them for, is that the bulk of my figure collection are these like 1930s horror movie characters, pulp characters, and that's what the Golden Age, and particularly movie characters, the Fleischer Superman is going to fit in perfectly with that. So there you go. That is my just my joy at finally getting this guy, him actually appearing here in my city, and just loving it. Just loving that I've got the classic animation Fleischer Brothers Superman figure.